were the ones that came to my little mind those days.
Right. So, what was the artist that really like got you into like into music that you really fell in love when you listened to?
Well, I mean, I have to say David Bowie.
Right.
David Bowie. That's like I mean, real reason for me to half of the reason for me to go to New York was to meet David Bowie.
Right.
While I'm trying to go and learn music as a film, but the other intention was purely to meet David Bowie.
Bowie. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of my podcast. We have a very special guest today, all the way from Sri Lanka. We have Mr. Boodee Keerthisena. Hi Boodee.
Ivan.
Ivan. Nice to have you on the podcast.
I'm very happy to be here, Channa.
Yeah. So how are you doing, Boodee, these days?
Not too bad. It's just we are again a little bit restricted with this virus thing. So,
right.
Other than that, life goes on. But that's all right.
Right. So, is the lockdown situation affecting your work or the stuff you do?
Yeah, because we were planning to do some series for online.
Right.
And now we are not really locked down. Colombo is not locked down, so we are okay.
Right.
But the process slows down a little bit. Slows down a little bit. Because of that, I think it takes time. That's my only problem.
Right. So, Boodee, we know you as a lot of people know you as a filmmaker, director, and in the film scene, but you also have some musical past as well, and you're a big music fan as well, so which I really want to talk to you about.
Sure.
But can you tell me a little bit about your childhood, your early childhood, and how you sort of got interested in music and also in the
Sure.
Yeah?
Well, you see, when I go back to very, very, very old times of my childhood, I can relate to certain books by R.K. Narayan. When you read the guide,
right.
The way he explains the visuals, scenery, and everything's just like in the guide. But I'm sure not everybody has read the book, so it was much of a village, totally a village. I remember they were building in 1973, 74, they were getting ready for the non-aligned conference. They were doing the roads,
right,
and all those things. And but my immediate relationship to the villages and my childhood is coconut, because everything I come from Koswadi, which is in between Mahawewa and Maravilla. When you talk about Italy, that's like
right,
a huge influenced area, especially in Napoli. And so coconut, because everything and anything is for Italians, pomodoro means the tree of life, right? Pomodoro, but then pomodoro means tomato. For us, the pomodoro is coconut, because we cannot do anything without coconut. We need to build huts with coconut leaves. We need to make honey with coconut toddy. We need to make ropes with coconut fiber, and we need to cook with coconut milk. And you take it, actually, polsambol. How can you have polsambol without coconut? So the whole thing is a coconut, right? We are coconut people, really. And with that comes to my father starting his batik business. Actually, it was the theater festival, like the cinema, because his grandfather had theater that they did with Eddie Jayamana, the B.A.W. Jayamana, those days, all with those people, and it was used to call theater.
Right.
So then our cinema darshana came, and then with that my father started the batik business. With that batik thing, a lot of tourists start coming in, and if you recall, 1975 was like the height of tourism for Sri Lanka. Like that was like the big focus in the
Right.
world. And then my father started traveling around the world, doing exhibitions and everything. uh, I'm trying to get into music, but then he bought records, right? But before that, my earliest memory goes with Sri Nandana Siripada Vandin Samanala Kande
Right.
Pipidinam. That is the song that I think I first heard. I think, maybe not, but that's what in my mind, that's the one it is ringing. But then my father started bringing these. He was a big fan of Santana, the Miss Roses. Abba was huge at that time,
Right.
and then later came Boney M. But before that, Abba was already there, and I found later on, I found a Janis Joplin album also in there. I
Right.
don't know how we got into Janis Joplin, but that was there too. And so my influences, everything, my imagination came from music actually. I used to and also Hindi songs, a lot of Hindi, like Kabhi Kabhi Mera Dil Mein, and
Right.
or if you take the soundtracks of Bobby, Chalte Chalte, or all these, they were there. So every time I was listening to music, my listen was entirely a movie. I would see visual, uh, not just visions of people singing or anything, but whole like a story. You know, that's
Right.
that's that's my entering into musical world with Donna Summer, and then Rod Stewart, the disco queen and king, and do you
Right.
think I'm sexy? Yeah, I am. That kind of before we came into that. So so all this smoky, and so, but mostly Santana, the Miss Roses, Abba, Donna Summer. These were the ones that came to my little mind those days.
Right. So, what was the artist that really like got you into like into music that you really fell in love when you listen to?
Well, I mean, I have to say David Bowie. I mean,
Right.
David Bowie. That's like I mean, real reason for me to half of the reason for me to go to New York was to meet David Bowie.
Right.
While I'm trying to go and learn music as a film, but the other intention was purely to meet David Bowie.
Bowie. So, who introduced you the David Bowie? Was it
Well,
from?
well. First, I heard because my father used to bring these compilations of albums that, I think KTIL or something. They were European, compilations. They put together the hits together, and one of them had Sound and Vision. That's from the Low album from
Right.
1977. So I've heard that song, but someone, as a person who really introduced me to him, was Mangala Samaravira. He was the designer at Buddhi Batiks at that time. Then he went on and became a minister and blah, blah, blah. Now he's out of politics.
Right.
But he was the real guy who really introduced me to David Bowie, like with a coherent, with a very significant history, and how Lou Reed, Iggy Pop, or everybody who's connecting to each other with, and Roxy Music, all this whole what now how. Then I really understood what David Bowie is and was.
Right. So, I've seen that later on your band you actually covered like Heroes, and what are the other songs that you covered?
The very first song. What happened was when the first song I wanted the band. I played to my guitarist and everybody, Putting Out Fire, the new version, not the Cat People version, but
Right.
with the guitarist. I forgot. He's dead now. He's a great guitarist who was in that album.
Right.
With heavy guitar parts and everything, and the guitarist was listening to it, and he's like, "Let's play this." I'm like, "Okay, let's play this. This is what I want to play." So, "Putting Out Fire" was the first song we rehearsed. This is the first song we rehearsed. But I think with that, we had another catchy tune at that time with Breakfast Club and other films. It was so out there. "Don't You Forget About Me" by Simple Minds.
Right.
These two songs, and because we were playing for a very specific reason, Palliya Mangala, that they were the ones only people who hired us because we were doing for free, so we could go
Right.
right. And I had to rehearse about 7-8 songs, and I think out of them, Putting Out Fire, Don't You Forget About Me, Heroes, and I think Psycho Killer by Talking Heads. No, I think it was a later part. I think it came later. Roxy Music, Over You. I didn't sing that, but another band member sang this Roxy Music song. So there were a bunch of songs that we totally was geared. Oh, China Girl by David Bowie, not the Iggy Pop version, but David Bowie version.
Right.
And these were the very first few songs that we did for that Palliya Mangala. And I was totally out of my head because, you know what I mean? You know, you had to be intoxicated by this and that. And then you went there and I was asking for the mic, and the guy was like, "Here, mic is right here. Why are you looking for the mic? It's right." Oh, yeah. And I was too excited. And people thought I was dancing. I was really shivering because it was my first night on the stage, first day on stage, and they wouldn't know. And so, but it felt like everybody thought I was dancing because my knees were going like this, you know.
Right.
And then I had notes, and the notes, and it's an open air thing. They were like, I mean, those days to have like 10,000 people out there was a huge thing because nobody had experience like that. Only Palliya Mangalas could get that because where else, right? And then all the lyrics went in the wind. The wind took it. So I was thinking, I don't know what I sang. I sang. Yeah. So that was our first experience.
So with the David Bowie songs, so if you have to choose like one song that you from David Bowie, what would be that you can have only one song? What would be that song?
Yeah. You know, the funny thing is, this is way before this song was introduced like this. I mean, it was already out there, and I was in New York. I'm writing an autobiography right now called Underdeveloped Memories. So when I was writing, this came to my mind. There were times I was alone. I mean, how can you be alone in New York City? But there were times you were alone. I mean, you were totally alone. You felt alone. And when you're depressed, the one song that brought me back over and over, and still to today it will bring me back, is Heroes. I didn't know it's going to be his anthem, but now it has become his anthem. Everybody, Bon Jovi to Blondie to Bruce Springsteen to everybody covers this now. Even before Prince died, even he covered Heroes. So it's like it has become an anthem. I never thought it's going to be that big, but I think it has that lyrics quality and the composition of music with Brian Eno and David Bowie and the guitarist from Crimson. Come on, he's one of the best. I will get his name. And you know, it's a fantastic song. It was beautifully done. So and I didn't realize that. It was just that feeling, and maybe the music and everything got me up, and now it's out there.
Yeah. You remember even that was covered by
Robert Fripp. I'm sorry, Robert Fripp. Robert
All
Fripp.
right.
Yeah, Robert Fripp. Yeah, he's the dude.
Yeah.
Sorry,
The,
you were saying something.
yes, the hero song was covered by Jacob Dylan. That's Bob Dylan's
Oh
son.
yes,
The
yes,
Wallflowers.
yes.
That was a really,
Wallflowers. Yeah.
really good cover, also, right?
That was a very good cover. I still love that song. I still love that song, and it was in a movie that really nobody cared, but it's a really great song. I like that song. I mean, I like that cover. Yeah.
Right. One song that I really like. I have several songs of Bowie that I like. One is the Space Oddity because it's
Oh, yeah. Oh yes, yes. Imagine finally he lived to see that astronaut is covering it from space. I mean, that was it. That was it. I mean, I was like blown away. I mean, this astronaut, I'm sure he took permission from David Bowie, and he must have been a David Bowie fan. So
right.
he goes up to this out in the space, and he starts singing that. And we all could see he's singing "Ground Control to Major Tom" from the spaceship. Fabulous. What more can an artist expect? I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah. That's because that song is kind of like in the same area like Bohemian Rhapsody, right? Because it's
Oh
not
yes,
just a song; it's a conversation,
sure.
story, in
Yeah,
one song, right?
yeah. The story behind it is, Stanley Kubrick wanted to make a movie, and he called Arthur C. Clarke, who was living in Colombo at that time,
Right.
and he said, "Arthur, can you write a science fiction for me?" And he said, "Yeah." He wrote 2001.
Right.
And 2001 Odyssey came somewhere in 68 or somewhere around that time. David Bowie seen it, and he got influenced, and he wrote. So I'm saying that song has something connected with Sri Lanka
Yes.
because Arthur C. Clarke was living and he was writing that. That's the only connection. But I connect it personally myself, like okay, that has a connection to Sri Lanka.
Right. So Buddhi, the people like in Nigambo, that West Coast people know that this fiesta or the Palli Mangali means like fiesta in other countries, right? So
Yeah.
it's that's where we had a chance to see some musical act
Oh
or
yes,
yes, right.
those days
That's
that was
where
it. Yes.
that's where we dress up, we put all our fashions out. That was even
Oh
for me when I was growing up in Nigambo, that was the same case.
yeah.
So how did you from that playing in that place, and then you actually had like you played in like in ITN or in the TV as well, right?
Yeah. Chitra's father, Sompal uncle, told my father to send us one day to perform on ITN, and we went and performed Psycho Killer by Talking Heads, our
Right.
version, but it was very closer to one of their live version, and that everybody was like, "Who the hell are these guys?" When we performed that. So that was a very great. Those days. I mean, Sompal uncle is a composer, so he understood music. And even if you listen to his certain compositions today for films or whatever he did, you could see that he knew the world music,
Right,
world
right,
scene.
right.
They understood what we were doing, those days. But
Yes.
that's how it went.
Yeah, I talked to Chitral earlier in one of the episodes, and he talked about his father because he was very open-minded, and he was influenced. He was taking all this Indian
Yeah,
music, Western music into the
yeah,
and some people gave him flack for that, right? Back then they were like
yeah,
criticizing him for including all these different
yeah.
sounds.
I must mention when you ask me where the influence comes from, the musicians, yeah, they were, but I must tell you that I was in Maristella College boarding. Even I'm a Buddhist. I was in the hostel boarding, and Rohan Jailat was with me in the boarding, and Rohan's brother Rohit. They are both from North Tandi, which is about few kilometers away from my house.
Right.
So when we were in the hostel itself, they formed their band, and they were called Serendip.
Serendip, right.
Yeah, and we had, the Serendip helped Boodee and the Woo-Zees a hell of a lot sometimes I remember there were rehearsals. We didn't have our drummer because our drummer had to work in a mal farm. He has to go and water the plants. They refused to give him leave. So what happened was I told Rohit, Machang, you have to come and help us. Yeah, no problem. Then he would come and play the drums while we were rehearsing for the gig. And and there was an instant, because they were playing the hotels and they were mostly like Blue Lagoon or wherever. And then, or Blue Oceanic, I can't remember. I think Seychelles mostly. And then there was a couple of days they had to go for a wedding or something because wedding gig is better paying and blah blah. Then he said, "Can you feel us?" I said, "Yeah, definitely." He gave us like 2-3 gigs like that, and we went and did the gig. But our sound was very different. We were like post-punk rock, and this is what our thing was.
Right.
And then we sat after that for dinner. And those days, these guys, my guys were like, either they were working at a shop, watering plants, or driving somebody's bus or something. And my rhythm guitarist, he was so hungry. Then they served the soup with these 2 holders like that. He took this and glug 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 and kept, and everybody started laughing because he didn't know. We had the spoon to drink that. So that's the kind of background we come from, and which it suits very much with the post-punk thing as well.
Right. So punk rock, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it was not intentional. It was like,
Yeah, I saw this one video you did like on Dharana, on the backstage of Dharana, the Gum Boys, you, Jail, Rohita, and
yeah,
Atula.
you see, that's the thing. I want to tell you, hold that kind of thing. You see, when Darshana Koswadi, which is where the Buddhi Batiks is also located, Buddhi Batiks, Darshana Koswadi, same land, and about a mile away lives Atula Adhikari. So every evening he would walk to the to play tennis in the Mahawewa tennis club, right? So,
Right.
and there was a kade called Sarat's Kade Boutique. We used to call it the airport because everybody lands there.
Right.
Sunflower would hang out there, right? And we would hang out there. Everybody hangs out there. Even Mangala used to come and hang out there. So everybody in the world used to hang out at Sarat's Kade, which is the airport.
Right.
And Atula and Sunflowers, they went on, becoming the biggest band of our time at the time. And recently, because I worked with, I still work sometimes on and off. I does music videos, or I get songs done by Nalin. Nalin did Angelika for Mille Soya, and then it was not coming out. And time he said, Machang, I can't wait so long. I said, no, go ahead, put it out. And then, he differently marketed. And for today, the original version he did for Mille Soya, nobody has it except for Mille Soya. That's funny. Right. So one day he was telling, he was saying, Machang, he's telling me, Machang, when you used to play those days, we used to come in bikes and we used to come and watch you. And I'm like, Marians watching us, that was like a weird thing, because they are like probably the biggest Sri Lankan band at the moment. And now we're like, whoa, you guys did that. Because this is a band area. Everybody knew everyone, and, you couldn't say who came first, who came second. It just, you go and, you meet somebody, that guy is somehow connected to a band. That's how it was.
Yeah. I think in that area, the reason for the growth of music is actually the tourism, right? To entertain the.
No, I think it was bigger than that, because something very nicer than that. Even though I'm a Buddhist, it all came from the church.
Right.
Because you have a choir at the church, and most of sometimes we are rehearsing and our keyboardist, Machang, I have to go for the rehearsal to the church, and he's gone.
Right.
because nobody would miss that. Nobody would miss that because it's like, oh my God, it's sin. You can't miss that. So the church influenced a lot for the musicians to, I think, come.
Right.
And even, I mean, a good example for Rohita and Rohan, I mean, they might have their own story, but when I see that Rohan was in hostel with us, and we had concerts in hostel for all the students, but then I remember them, two of them together with Brother Victor and Brother Milroy. I think Brother Milroy. They were all playing guitars, and Clarence was a huge influence. So even there, the Christian background helped them a lot. You know,
Right.
they must have had music in mind to become musicians. But I'm saying helping these the young people. I think it has to do the Christian church and all this. That's how I see.
Right. Yes, I agree, because a lot of people start singing because of church, right? That's their first
That's
sort
why.
of yeah. So, Buddhi, what about your about the movies? So, when is this? I mean, your family had that sort of the film hall and all that, but
Yeah.
how did the interest come in, and what sort of movies that early like influence you very early?
Well, I'm writing right now in my memoirs. Those days when I used to, after being in the hostel, we became day scholars. Then I was put to a van, or rather a minibus, who would take most of us from. I was the last stop, that is Koswadi. From that end to up to like Nainamadama and Kochikade, we used to collect students and go to. We first we were dropped at Maristella, and then the van would go to Ave Maria to drop the girls.
Right.
In this, I was remembering in this when I was coming in this vehicle, there were movies that I've seen by that time, like Excalibur by John Borman, then Bridge Too Far, the war movie and everything. I had a lot of wars going in my mind. I mean, my reality was a fantasy, but it was a reality. I couldn't, sometimes I had problems of really saying this is real, this is fantasy. There were a lot of wars fighting, and if this side was fighting the Knights of the Round Table, this side was fighting with tanks and this firing the soldiers, bam, 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 and that kind of thing. So they were all coming from movies, and I would say Excalibur had a huge influence in myself because it's about the King Arthur and the Round Table.
Right.
And then, of course, the Bridge Too Far, the war movie with almost all the actors in that time from Hollywood and from other countries as well. And then, of course, Midnight Express wanted me, because my father brought Betamax VCR somewhere around 1977, 78. At that time, there were like 2, 3 in Sri Lanka, not many, because we didn't even have TV by that time.
Right.
So,
Right.
and he had bought Midnight Express and a few other movies like The Party with Peter Sellers and this and that, and Star Wars. So Midnight Express wanted me to become an actor. Then I started watching Al Pacino in Dog Day Afternoon, this and that, all those. And around that time, I went to, I can't remember the year, maybe 78, something like that, with my parents to, or 79, I can't remember, to England. And every subway station they had, "We Are Not Alone, Close Encounters of the Third Kind." I was like, what the hell is going on? Everywhere they're saying, "We are not alone, Close Encounters of the Third Kind." I was intrigued by this, and I wanted to find what it was. And then somebody told me it's a movie. So I told my father, no, I think my father used to bring them, but I was going to Nasta's Video Club in Colombo. Everybody used to go to that, and even if you wanted to buy a cassette.
Right.
And I asked we are not alone, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He said, no, 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 it's Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And he gave me the tape. And it blew my mind because it was all about UFOs and whole thing. And this is what me, Rohit of Jayasri, we were discussing about those days. Machan, aliens la, pitasakkala kattiya nammanan, all these things we are talking at that time. And then suddenly it hits with this movie. And I'm like, I want to make something like that. And I have to tell you, before I finish that story, when I was making Mata, I worked with a guy in SFX, means special effects on the set, like explosions, this and that. And Joanne Klein, his first movie he worked was Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That's my closest I got to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. You know, I get to work with the crew member of Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Right.
So coming back to that, then when I realized that it was difficult to make things like that, I wanted to study. And to study, couldn't find a place. Because in Sri Lanka, there was no place to study. Then I thought, and I had some talks with my friends. Everybody said, go abroad, learn somewhere else. And then I was thinking of Italy or maybe France. Then one day Mangala said, you know what, David Bowie lives in New York. And you know what, Woody Allen lives in New York too.
Right.
And you know what, Martin Scorsese lives in New York too. Then I'm like, okay, that's it, New York. So I'm going to New York to learn movies. Yeah, that's where that part comes to.
Right. So how was the life in New York? Can you tell me a little bit about the life in New York?
Yeah, whenever I had little time, I started learning. But every time else, I was in the clubs and the parties and promoting clubs and promoting bands. Like Living Color, that was a band we promoted once. If you remember that, Cult of Personality.
Yeah.
And and then what is it? I'm a Jamaican from blah blah blah. It was a parody of I'm an Englishman from New York, but
right.
Shinehead, Jamaican band Shinehead. And so, like, we were promoting that kind of things, and I was there was a club called Mars, and we were promoting things for them and hanging out in the clubs a lot. Club scene was going on, and I met, and then I also did my film learning work. I mean, I find out some of my roommates and great friends are like big time filmmakers now, which I still have contacts to, but they are like huge. They're like huge. Those guys. Yeah. And so, New York was where I started looking at Sri Lanka also in a different way. When I started reading R.K. Narayan, the guide, and that I started building up a different kind of love back home. Even though I love that society, I love everything, the freedom, everything. I mean, New York is the most westernized or probably the most liberal place on earth, if you can think of like the most modern place on earth you can go to.
Right.
Then I met Jaron Lanier, the guy who discovered virtual reality glove. All these people come across because I had a friend called, I'm still friends with him. He's Steve. His name is Steve. I can't remember the second name. He called me once and he asked, Boodee, would you like to earn extra money? I'm like, yeah, of course, definitely. Do you want to come? Because I met this guy working at Tower Records classical section, right? And he said his background was rich when I heard everything what he's saying. And I'm like, how come you're working as a sales clerk in Tower Records? and he's Jewish. He said, "Oh no, I'm in between my jobs. They don't waste their time, so they work somewhere." And then he said, "You don't want to believe? I'll show you something." And then he went, picked up from the classical section Philip Glass album of music of Bowie and Brian Eno, the Low album. And he was like, there goes his name, the executive producer. I'm like, wow, you there? It's like, yes. Still, I didn't believe it. So one day this guy calls me and say, "Hey, you want to make an extra buck?" I'm like, "Yeah, definitely." So come on to this place on the West 4th Street between blah, 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 to the Looking Glass Studios. And I'm like, I go in there and I ring the bell and I walk in. And he take me directly to his office and he sat me down and I see him with David Bowie and Brian Eno and Philip Glass, all the pictures. Then only I started believing this is the real guy who, and he said, "Sure, you want to work here as a studio assistant?" I'm like, "Yeah, definitely." And I started working there. And then that was the time David Bowie was recording his album Earthling. And my friend Dante Di Sol was the recording engineer for that, recording in the same studio. And for me, it was like, wow, it's just, so that's part of me meeting people. I mean, I did an interview with Philip Glass, the composer, and he did the music for Kundun for Martin Scorsese. And he also, and then I did some interviews with late Allen Ginsberg. He's dead. He's, Allen Ginsberg again connected to me in Sri Lanka. I was doing a documentary called Pata Pata, and this was about color and architecture. And I wanted to get some background from some known person like Dr. Arthur C. Clarke. So I called him up. He was like, "Yeah, come on in." And then he asked my background, and I was giving him a background. And he's like, "Oh, you know what? I would like to hear some music by Philip Glass." I said, "Of course, I'll bring it to you next time." So then he asked the story, and then I was telling him, he's like, "You see that picture over there? You see that?" I'm like, "Yeah, you should take a look at that, you see?" And I'm seeing Arthur C. Clarke, then Allen Ginsberg, and I think it was James Burroughs, the Burroughs, William Burroughs, the guy who wrote Naked Lunch, and he was in YouTube videos by YouTube and Bono and them. So, and I'm like, oh my God, like, they're all connected if you really think about it. All this is a very small world. All the writers, all the musicians, everybody's connected. And I was like, and which is true, because earlier days, Lionel Wendt and Man Ray used to know each other. Man Ray is like the most classical photographer, if you can, modern classical photographer. And then I walk into my documentary class. The first thing they are showing us is Song of Ceylon, done by the British filmmakers, and the voice is by Lionel Wendt. So there was a lot of these collaborations were going on those days. I think it ended somewhere, like, I don't know when, but it just ended for a later time, and then that was sad, because all these collaborations were great all the time.
Yeah, because Allen Ginsberg, I mean, you see pictures, he's with like Jimi Hendrix and all these people, right?
Oh, he was a dude, He was a dude. He was he was like a father, one of the fathers of the Beat Generation writers, and he was with a lot of musicians, a lot of actors. He was like an icon. And imagine, I mean, even Bono used to be friends with him when he was alive. And imagine me, Boo-Dee, also friends, because Alan would come to me and ask sometimes, like, "Son, do you think we can get some permission to shoot over there?" And so I would run in and like I'll try to find out something for him. So he was a very sweet guy, and he was very nice to many. I mean, almost everybody that I could think of. So you're right. He was one of those. He was a bridge to us, like from Jimi Hendrix to us. You know, I mean that's great.
Yeah. So Boodee, the movie wise, so you mentioned Woody Allen, you mentioned Martin Scorsese. What about others who are your like look up to with regards to like filmmaking?
Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of Andrei Tarkovsky, the Russian filmmaker.
Right.
And also I'm influenced by at one point Quentin Tarantino, but you know it changes. Pedro Almodovar, and of course Mani Ratnam, the Indian filmmaker.
Right.
And in Sri Lanka, of course, Dharmasena Pathiraja, Dharmasiri Bandar Nayaka, and some of earlier works of Lester James Peary's, amazing. I think he did the biggest movie in Sri Lanka called Nidane, Treasure. I don't think any of us could make a movie closer to that. So that's there. And also the Federico Fellini, the Italian filmmaker, and Peter Greenaway. Derek Jarman was one of my top in the list, the British filmmaker. And even Ridley Scott with his first Blade Runner.
Right.
And Ridley is amazing. His Alien. He's a very visual director. And we cannot forget Terry Gilliam, Adventures of Baron Munchausen. He's like the crazy guy of Hollywood, and I love his work. Brazil, 12 Monkeys. I mean, he's a great director. And yeah, there are a few that I really like, but I like the older ones than the new ones. New ones I like, of course, Tarantino. I like he changed a lot of things in cinema, and also this guy Christopher Nolan he's a little bit highly rated, but he's good. I like him. His work is good. Like Interstellar to the new one is what is it? I can't remember the name of the new one. There's a new film by him.
Right.
So you know, I mean, there are a lot of, and also I have a friend of mine who makes like 16mm movies. His name is Rick Rodin, and he had made some wonderful movies. I'm still inspired by them, influenced by them. And my classmate, my classmate and my roommate, Morton Tildum, but him I like only one movie, the Imitation Game. That I like, but I didn't like Passengers. It didn't quite work for me. So, you know, there are a bunch of filmmakers. Some of them are very old. Old means like older ones. Because cinema, I think, in a way, kind of lost its way, like music lost its way. You know, now it's like whatever, and it becomes music. But those days, it had something else to it. So, you know, cinema has the same problem. I think it's because young people, they don't like to read that much. They don't want to get into the subject. As long as they produce it and out there, then they're okay. That's what it is, I think.
Right. So, Boodee, I remember watching the Sihina Deshayen movie, but at that time, I didn't really get it when I watched it.
I don't think anybody got it.
Yeah. So, how was the response? Because I know that you got a lot of recognition for that internationally, but how was the response from Sri Lankans?
Huge. It was like the second box office that year. A lot of people saw it. Even for today, people say they love Sihina Deshayen. I think maybe when it comes to certain art formats, when you don't understand everything so perfectly, also you like to think, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Even David Lynch says that. I've
Yeah.
seen in some interviews by. There's a very specific interview. Lynch is being interviewed. No, Lynch is giving a press conference, and a girl gets up and say, "Mr. Lynch, we saw your movie Mulholland Drive, and all our friends went to a restaurant, and then we start talking about the ending. One person said maybe because it's because of that. Then the other person said like no, because of this reason only that happened. Then the other one like no, I disagree with both of you. I think it was this, and can you tell us why? Then he said exactly, that's it. That's the ending. That you went to a coffee shop and talked about. You had the ending there. I didn't have to give it. You had
Right.
it. I mean, you start thinking this is what happened. This is what happened. So Sihina Deshayen is a bit of a film like that.
Right.
It has a narrative. You can see it's happening. People falling into the well and funny things happen. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the concept of it is for you to think. That's how it was done.
Right. One thing I noticed with like your movies when they started coming out, Sihina Deshayen and then Mille Soya, the casting was like you had the best people on the movies, right? You always like it's like
I don't know. I think I work with friends. I mean, I remember when I was working in Sihina Deshayen, it was friends,
right,
and then in Mille Soya, totally friends again. But some people like Linton Semage, when he became the best actor for Me Haraka, and I was also at that award ceremony.
right,
He was sitting front of me or something. When he came down with his award, he sat down and he said, "You should cast me for your next movie." And it was already late because I've already casted my. So I
right,
thought there's one role, but it's very small role, so I casted him. I always respect the people. They come and tell me that I'd like to be in your movie. I mean, there are few people like that. Even Sriyanta is like that in that movie, and there were few people even to today when they tell me I cast them for something because it's out of the respect they ask you to cast you in their film, in your film, because
mm,
so you have to pay their tribute, to respect them.
right. Uh, Boodee, I think the out of all the Sri Lankan movies, I think my favorite Sri Lankan movie, I think, is Mille Soya, because I actually still have the DVD and also the
Oh
soundtrack
man, fabulous,
because
fabulous.
I even bought it here because I really loved the movie and also the storyline, because as I said, I'm actually from Nigambo. My parents,
Yeah,
my dad is from Mahawewa, so we have relatives who went to Italy and settled down. They took the boat. They tried so many times, and all this is
yeah.
very close to us.
Oh yeah, definitely.
One thing with that movie is it felt very natural. It didn't feel like a movie when we were watching that, how the like in the start of the movie when all the friends are getting together, all this funny stuff, and that probably a reflection of your past as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, and two more important things that film did. You held the DVD and you held the
Mm,
CD.
CD, yeah.
See, in the film, we completely changed the acting style of Sri Lankan cinema. That was it. You completely, and if you really listen to the music, we completely changed the Sri Lankan music scene from that album.
Right,
Wildfire doing Singalagi. I mean, Wildfire was formed because of Mille Soya. Because when we not because of Mille Soya. I mean, Derek will have his own story. But what I'm trying to say is, while we were doing Mille Soya, while we were recording, Derek was putting together Wildfire in the background of Mille Soya. Means
right,
like we would meet in the evening. He's like say, "Machan, I'm thinking of putting this name. wildfire, and then he would say another fire, something, something. And I'm like, no, 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 wildfire is better. So like, you know, all these things came together with wildfire when he was doing finishing off with Mille Soya soundtrack, and Jayashree coming with their new album and getting all this new kind of music into the movie, and Lakshman Desav trying to inaugurate with basically the total Western music with the local scene. So it was definitely, I don't know why people don't talk about it that much, but it definitely changed the genre of music in Sri Lankan cinema and the popular industry as well.
Right.
But you know, then of course Bharti and Santosh, they will catch up. So that's a different story. But
Right.
I'm saying this really changed thing, and film also, the acting style and the camera angles, the editing, everything changed. So this movie was a very significant movie in the history of Sri Lankan art scene. I wouldn't just say cinema, but the art scene.
Right. Whose idea was to put that song? Because you, in that movie, you did a sort of a remix or a cover. It's a remix actually. You did like a Bob Marley song. You did a Sri Lankan version of that, right?
You see, the thing is, when we were shooting, I was listening to Fugees.
Right.
No Man No Cry. Not because of Fugees, actually because of Bob Marley.
Right.
I wanted to hear the newer version of No Man No Cry, because the film is about that. Because I've heard the story of Bob Marley is being picked up by the Island Records when they came to Jamaica, and he was taken. Him and his band was taken to do recordings and performances in Europe and worldwide. And his friends thought he left his friends. That he's gone now. Like, you know, he found better place. He's gone. Then he wrote this song, No Man No Cry. I remember when we used to sing in the government yard in Trenchtown, and all this. It's about his friendship with his local friends and all these things. So Mille Soya was totally that. I couldn't have done the film if I didn't listen to maybe No Man No Cry. So it was my tribute to Bob Marley and the whole of that generation, making it, of course, myself, Kamal, Victor, Mahendra, and Anthony Surendra, we wrote the song, Sinhala version, and then we recorded the version with Jagat Vikramasinghe. And it was good. It was good. But then I thought, nah, it doesn't have that the Marley's touch to it. You know, it's like it doesn't have the real reggae that shape to it. So I took it to Rohit and I said, look, Macha, you had to do this. He's like, and then one day he came to the studio right then and there. He did it. So that's like a tribute to that whole generation, the friendship, the brotherhood, and your history.
Right. Yeah, the lot of songs. So I mean, your friendship with Jayashree. So they are, I think, one of the earliest Sri Lankan band or people to go in, like, you know, become famous in other countries, right? Like, they're one of the earliest bands, and I've been a big fan of Jayashree from the days of, like, I think they even had a name like Condom back then.
Yeah, they had first Men from Paradise,
Right.
and then they became Condom, and then they became Jayashree.
Because I've been a big fan of Jayashree, because see, I have all the Jayashree.
Yeah. Actually, Rohit gave me the album, the first album to release. So I had a company called Pop Station. With that, I was trying to do, because he wanted me to do, the whole reason was he wanted me to do a music video for Modgovia.
Right.
And when I heard it, I was like, wow, that's it. He didn't have money. So we shot the whole Modgovia on Super VHS. Nobody knew it at the station. If they knew, they wouldn't have even put it. but
Right.
it came with my name endorsed, so they put it. And then when they heard it, like, wow, what is this band? This is crazy. So then I called Hiru and Aravinda and all these guys. I asked, please help these guys. They are really good. And those days, they didn't even take a cent, but they were filled with all the programming because everybody loved Jaisi music. You know, Sudu and Dumin, blah, blah, blah. Then when I was talking to him, Macam, what are the other songs I want to hear? Because I am missing one song for this Mahendra and Sangeeta. He's like, yeah, take any song. I mean, actually, I took almost all the songs. Then I listened to Sudu and Dumin, and I'm like, damn, that sounds a bit like Mahendra Pera singing. And then I went and played to Sangeeta. Like Sangeeta was sitting and doing makeup or something, and I put like, listen to this. Is that Mahendra? I'm like, no, it's not Mahendra. It's beautiful. And then I went and played that to Mahendra. He was probably smoking. Whoa, that's cool. What is this? I'm like, that's our new song. That's what you and my Sangeeta will be performing. Get ready. And so like in 2 days, we shot the music. The song in the movie.
Right.
And Sudu and Dumin. And since then, it became the phenomena of the music videos. I mean, Rasarisi, we played it for like almost 1 year.
Right.
Every day is number one. Every day is number one. I think those guys did it by purpose or something. But anyway, it's huge success, and that song became anthem for Jayasree. And you cannot, for some reason, you cannot separate Mille Soya and Jayasree.
Right.
It has to be very honest. I mean, I was heartfelt with that. You know, it was. I was introducing my new films. New means it's already gone. Nimne Kahuda Kala's music video. Jayasree said, I can come and introduce. I said, look, I'll introduce with the actors. So the actors in it, Chitra actually introduced because it was Rock Meets Reggae. He called on from the junior actor to the senior actor. And then you started hearing the sound of the. Now, most of the audience is Jayasree crowd, right? And there is Chitral crowd and Jayasree crowd. Both are there, but most of them because that was the first Rock Meets Reggae. Then you hear, when you introduce Sachini, there's a raw going on. Then you introduce Samanli, a bigger one going. And then you introduce Saumya, another big one. Then you introduce Sangeeta, huge one. And you know what? When they introduced me, it was the biggest. And I was like, I'm just the guy who was behind the camera. How can this happen? Then I realized it's that Jayasree Mille Soya thing that came. You know, that's the fan base. We have our fan base is pretty much. They have a bigger fan base, but our fan base sort of at one point becomes one because because of this movie. Oops.
Right.
I almost lost you there.
Yeah. So you were talking about Mahendra Pereira. So he's, I mean, if it seems like it's like also you and him also kind of, it's hard to separate as well, right?
I'll tell you, Jayasree, Mahendra Pereira, Mille Soya, this cannot be. I'll tell you a good example. We went to shoot Ricky Dean in Adventures of Ricky Dean somewhere in Modana, I can't remember, somewhere, you know, near Vanathamulla area, right? Near train tracks. And they saw Mahendra, right? When we were shooting we can't shoot. They're playing Sudu and Dumin, they're playing Adaralove, they're playing all the Jayasree songs because of Mahendra there.
Right.
They are connecting Mille Soya, Jayasree, that whole thing through Mahendra. And I had to send somebody and say, please, aye, we make a shoot because of with the noise we can't shoot.
Right.
So they stop. But moment Mahendra walks in there, that's Mille Soya all coming out. So yeah, there is a huge relationship for Mahendra, Mille Soya, Jayasree, Buddhi. This is all Sudu and Dumin. This is like a one whole big, amazing, beautiful thing.
Right. So Boodee, can you tell me? I watched the trailer of Ricky Dean, but I wasn't able to watch the movie yet. But can you
Neither did
tell?
I.
Uh,
Neither did I. This is not finished yet.
yeah. Right. Can you tell me a little bit about? I know that you are trying out like shooting it with using the iPhones. Is that the case?
Yeah, yeah. People always tell me like I am a little bit ahead of things and do the first thing, blah blah blah. Yeah, maybe, but the reason I'm doing that, Nimne Kudakala is Sri Lanka's first digital movie. The, the reason it becomes digital movie is because of the budget. We were doing it in a small budget. Then we say, okay, let's go digital. It will be less budget. Then it becomes the first digital movie, and after that, people start shooting digitally. When we were talking about Ricky Dean with Mahendra in 3-4 characters, this and that, and we didn't have budget. Then I said, my friend Lakshman said, why don't you, Joseph Jiseram said, why don't you shoot that in iPhone? I'm like, yeah, that has 2K, why not? And then we start to shooting in iPhone. So people think I am, wow, ahead and doing this. But no, I am actually cutting the corners and going forward. That's what I'm doing.
Right. Yeah. So Boodee, I know that from your recent TV, the one you posted, you did a TV interview show recently, and then you talk about and I see also you're posting about the food and stuff. So you're vegetarian, right?
Yeah, I'm 100% vegetarian.
So for ethical reasons or for health reasons?
No, actually, it is more than health reasons. It's more like personal. It's ethical and religious both. Because I started getting more into meditation and Buddhism. When that happens, you start realizing you cannot take another's life by force, because actually into that school of thought, taking meat is by force, because nobody's going to say like have me for dinner, have me for lunch, kind of that thought. So because of that, you immediately become a vegetarian, and you start to think like that, and so you start to think everybody, all the beings right to existence, and I mean that's the philosophical thought behind it. But actually, it's more than that. It's passion also, because when we like animals, you don't want to do that. That's what it is. That's what it is. And I have no problem with people who are not like me. I have all the friends. I always go to the parties, but they are always worried. Is it okay if we make a smoke? Or is it okay if we eat? I'm like, that's your thing. I have no problem with it. As long as you guys don't force me, that's
Right.
it.
Right. Because I was actually vegetarian for like probably 3.5 years.
Okay.
Living in a country like Philippines, where even the vegetables is like they cook it with like pork. It was one thing was my family was getting getting very inconvenient for them. They had to always go to like certain places. Because
Are they from Philippines or from Sri Lanka?
they're from Philippines. My wife is actually from the Philippines. So I sort of gave up on the idea, because it was really one thing was I was tired of eating the same food for so time. But I do try to eat more vegetables, and I do have that compassion, and but I kind of get frustrated with sometimes the people. They talk about compassion, but they try to enforce it to everyone. So it's I think it should.
I don't think you should do that, because see, everything is by choice, no? It should
Right.
be by choice. You can show them, hey, I mean, we are not even, I am not even going to show it unless they ask, because, showing them, they feel intimidated.
Right.
But if you ask, hey, can you tell me why you do that? Well, what's the reason behind it? Blah, blah, then I can tell. But I don't want to sit down here and say like, hey, you know what, this is so cool, you should try. And I don't think it should be like that. It shouldn't be like that.
Yeah, because I think the best way to show that is to actually like share them with the vegetarian food, right? Because there's a lot of options and
Yeah, they're like you can eat like this. Wow, so let me try. That's a good way to, yeah, that you can do that. Yeah,
right.
that's fine. Did you do anything with Buddhi?
Who? Sorry.
Buddhi from Wagon Park?
Not yet. But I had one of their drummers recently. They had another band, but I haven't.
I do some. He's acting in Ricky Dean as well.
Right.
And he did couple of songs for Ricky Dean as well. So he's a very talented guy. I like his album, and he's actually, sorry that I am bringing this out. Actually, to tell you the current Sri Lankan music scene, I think Buddhi is out there. His stuff is very fresh, really nice, and he's great in music, and he's doing something really good. Yeah.
Right. Boodee, I want to ask you: do you like watch TV or Netflix? Are you into those watching series and movies?
Yeah, I do watch series. I do watch watch YouTube. I do watch Netflix. I have subscriptions on Netflix. Because of my kids are small, I don't get as much as chance to watch all the time, because they will now I put them upstairs. Otherwise, they'll come and say, "Tata, I want to watch here," because I have my personal computer is also here.
Right.
So that's easier for me. So then they'll come and and then they'll go to the television and say they want to Flippy or Blippy or whoever. So I do watch, yeah, I do watch a lot of series. Yeah.
Did you watch Irishman, the Martin Scorsese one?
No, I didn't get to watch that one. No. I heard it's so good.
Yes.
I heard it's very good. I watch American Gods, because the American Gods editor is the same editor of Martha.
Right.
So because of that, I started watching an American God is really amazing. Yeah.
Yes.
It's over now, but it's really good. Did you see that?
No, I know, because it's Neil Gaiman's book, right?
Yeah, Neil Gaiman's book.
Yeah.
You should watch it. It's really good. It's really good.
Yeah.
Stephen Phillipson, the same guy who cut Martha, cut them.
Yeah, Boodee, I think you should watch this is a German series, Dark. Have you watched Dark?
Dark. It's funny. When I first started watching Dark, I'm like, hey, this is like Rumasala. This guy's going to a tunnel and the time changes. That's my concept. Because I've already shot Rumasala, and then Dark came.
Right.
Like, what's going on? But then Dark is more than that. I think it takes you to a different entire world.
Right.
Rumasala is only like one series, 10 episodes. This is taking you like much more beyond, and it's a good one. Yes, actually,
Yeah,
it's a good.
really good.
I like Dark.
Yeah.
Very good.
So Boodee, what's upcoming for you? I know the COVID and all these things, but what can we expect from you in the coming?
I'm sure something to do online, some series online. Right now, I have shot something called Super Sunil. Super Sunil is on post production right now, in post production, and after that, I think the moment it's like a Twilight series kind of thing. It's like strange, like Stranger Things, very strange stories and things that you don't think about. A series of that is coming out, and yeah. So one we shot. We are waiting to shoot the others, because once the post of this is finished, then with that we'll go on for the other. And some people asked me to shoot for, they have not confirmed it, for online. Let's see how it happens for online platforms.
Right.
If it works, I'm happy, because then you can make it. It comes out, people will see, I mean, yeah, it's people will say it's smaller than movies, but no, trust me. Now online is bigger than movies right now. I think it's getting bigger.
Yeah. So, what's your message to your fans?
My message is, if you don't know my series Bakanila is what they copied and made Rhythm Chat. You want me to go on like that? So then, I mean, I don't have a specific message to them, because the fact is, they should try to watch different things. But as somebody who wants to accept my kind of art form, read a lot, watch a lot, understand the history a lot, then it is easier to relate to the real artists than the people who just come one hit wonder. That's what I can say.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Boodee, anybody you want to shout out to?
Well, Mr. Mucho, because of what you did, I got Channa. That's Derek. Mucho is Derek. Mucho
Right.
is the killer in Satya. My TV series. He's the killer.
Right.
So Derek plays a killer in that. There are some episodes in Elephant and the Mouse, my channel. You can check it out. Mucho is going with a gun. So I call him Mucho and he called me Bucho.
Mucho and Mucho.
Thanks, Derek, for holding this for me. And of course, everyone, all the artists and friends who have worked with me so far, from the very first creative thing I started, and my Buddhi and the Woo-Zees. I recently met another Buddhi and the Woo-Zees fan. They are all there in like 40s and 50s now, So I'm glad, because of you all are watching and listening to my things, that I am able to do these things. And thank you very much. And a lot of artists around the world have inspired me. Like, some of them are my friends, like Jayasri, Derek. Some of them are friends, Buddhi. So it's great working together. It's also great that we are lucky enough to still put our art form to people who recognize us, and keep it up. Thank you.
Yeah. So Boodee, I want to thank you for joining this. This was a really good conversation. I really enjoyed it. So keep making art, music, and movies, and really, because we are looking forward to watching those things coming out. And thank you for joining the podcast. Really appreciate.
Thank you very much, and share this podcast with me also. I will share it with my other things.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Boodee.